Good morning. Here we are, gathered again with the goal of dropping out of our ordinary, everyday life for a few moments and get in touch with something a little more essential in ourselves. And the way I've learned to do that is through deep relaxation of the body, which allows the whole organism to quiet down, slow down. I'm not taken out of myself by random thoughts of what needs to be done or how things are in the world, and have an opportunity to actually look deeply inside and come to a possible different or deeper understanding of who and what I am. So we begin, and I've been studying my English, learning the difference between a metaphor, a simile, and an analogy. Because we start with the simile of the body being like, and that's the key to a simile, is it something like something. The body's like a vessel, and we see that vessel as being full to the top of some liquid, like a cup. And each time we take a breath, it's like taking a sip from the cup, and the level goes down a little bit. And so we use that picture in this relaxation process as we move down from the top of the skull. So at first you find a very comfortable place to sit, way to sit, comfortable for you, as quietly as you can. And you bring all your attention to the top of the skull. And with your attention there, you can check out what your body's doing. You can feel the temperature, maybe, of the top of your skull. You can feel little tiny air currents, moving hairs on the top of your head. And you can just sort of keep this picture with you as we go through this process. So now the level of liquid, we'll take a breath, and on the out breath we'll allow that liquid level that we are picturing to drop down a little bit with the breath. And hover now just above the tops of the ears. And again, we can check in and see. You can feel tops of the ears, maybe feel a little hair behind them. There's something going on there all the time, but we don't give it much attention. And as we drop this level, if there's any tension, if we're holding anything in these areas, with that out breath we let it go. And now we move down to the eyebrows. The muscles are just under the eyebrows. And maybe toward the center of the ear. And our purpose in this is to let go of any tensions that we're holding in this part of the body. And let's let go of our thoughts, anything that's arising other than where I'm directing my attention. This attention can get very, very focused, so that there's nothing else going on. And we move that attention around. That's part of this process of moving inside. And we have an exhale, and the level drops down to the eyes themselves and the bottom of the eyes and the muscles under the eyes and the tops of the cheeks. And now including the jaw muscles behind the ears. Sometimes we unknowingly have tension in those muscles. And with the out-breath, we let that go. Now we can sense the temperature, any air movement on the nose, on the bridge of the nose. And down into the nostrils, and we can sense our breath going in and out of the nostrils. The cheek muscles, often holding tension there. And when we squint, we're tensing those muscles. And we let that go. Well, still sitting upright. Usually in this, if we were to relax this much, we would want to start to fall asleep. But since we have our attention focused, this helps with that. And even at that, the mind might be so bored, it just wants to fall asleep. But that's not our aim here. Okay, the muscles, the breath, the letting go of the tensions, moves down into the area of the mouth, the upper lip, the lower lips. The tongue can be resting gently on the floor of the mouth. Muscles in the chin, holding any tension there, just check. See if it gets any looser. See if you can change something in that. And then while you're at it, you kind of check back up. See if something's returned to the tension is returned to the cheek muscles. And let that go again, or above the forehead. Just check back. The idea is to keep draining this residual tension downward toward the tips of the fingers and the tips of the toes. Letting go. And get to the neck. Muscles in the back of the neck, on the top of the spine. Let go of those. Muscles in the throat, around the Adam's apple. Today we're going to go down both arms as one, sensing the muscles across the shoulder blades, sternum, down into the upper arms. Again, we're following that level of liquid. The tension where we're at, above there is less tension, below there is still, we haven't looked there yet. We're getting there. So every breath, we can let something go. We move down to the elbows, the upper arm, lower arm, excuse me, back of the lower arm. If your hands are resting on your thighs, you can feel the weight. You can feel the temperature difference between the hand and the top of the thigh on your clothing. Brings you closer inward. And finally, we can go back to the top of the head, and in one breath, let all the tension in the areas we've been through go out through the tips of the fingers. Now we return to the back of the head and top of the spine. And start down the chest. The sternum, scapula, muscles in the shoulders, in the front of the chest. Letting the level drop, letting the tension go as much as we can and still remain sitting upright. You can sense the lungs breathing in and out. The rib cage surrounding all the organs. The kidneys, noticing, not likely very aware of tensions in those organs. That would be a very deep understanding. But we can go there, we can allow the diaphragm, which is very relaxable, to relax. Develop, resulting in maybe a fuller breath. Longer inhale and exhale. Again, moving inward. kind of way of dropping out of time, like you're involved in something that you're really interested in. It just seems like it goes on automatically, and it does, but we hardly ever look at it. Now moving into the muscles, the buttocks, the backs of the thighs. If you're sitting on a stool or something, you can feel the weight of the body pressing down on those muscles. A little temperature difference because of the pressure. And again, air moving around over your clothing. All these things. And then allow the level to drop to the fronts of the thighs, to the knees, the shins, the calf muscles. If your feet are flat on the floor, you can feel the weight of your feet. This is an actual weight of the feet on the floor. And again, because of the pressure, there will be a little temperature difference from the rest of your body. Again, we return to the top of the head. And on the exhale, we totally let it all go from the top of the head through the tips of the toes. Maybe in a couple, 2 or 3 breaths. Now we'll move into the second part. We're in a different space now than when we started. We don't need to try and name it or define it at this point. Maybe a little more quiet. Don't settle on any one designation, label, or interpretation. Just leave it open. It's different. Just go with, I don't know, different. So we return our attention now to the back of the head, top of the spine, and we'll get ready to, we'll be going in a rotation around the limbs, starting with the right arm, going to the right leg, left arm, and the whole body. So we direct our attention, again, using the breath, almost like aiming a laser, or maybe putting the pointer on your computer screen on the right arm. So all of our attention goes to that right arm. And the way we verify that is we use the sensation that's in the arm. Again, weight, temperature, movement of air. If you're very sensitive, you can notice the blood flow in the arm. nerve endings, little ticks, little twitches, all those things. We're using those to capture the attention that we're putting there. And we're breathing into that limb also. It's almost so every breath renews the sensation, which is there all the time, but we don't pay any attention to it. Now we can pull that attention back out on the right arm and return to the back of the skull, the top of the spine, with our attention. You can almost see it as a light if you like, moving there, whatever works for you. We're back there now. And we send the attention down to the right leg. Again, all the same criteria: air movement, weight, pressure, temperature, and all of our attention focused on that limb. And this doesn't really require effort as much as opening to this sensation, opening to this idea of attention. I wouldn't want to see tension returning to the body like you were making an effort with the body. This is not part of this exercise. It's just an allowing of the attention to move to these areas. It's willing to go wherever directed. Now we return the attention to the back of the head, top of the spine. Gather it there and now send it into the left leg. Allowing that leg to fill with attention verified by the noticing of all the criteria. The body just moving on in its process. I now pull the attention back up the spine to the back of the skull, top of the spine, and now focusing the attention on the left arm. I allow this limb to take that attention and verify the presence of that attention with the awareness of the already present sensation in that limb. Something that's always going on. This could be seen as developing a skill. That the skill itself will fill in where it's needed, this ability to move into quietude, silence, peace, whatever you wish to call it, in life is very handy. And the body is definitely a way into that, for starters. Okay, now I move to the top of the spine, the back of the skull, and I allow the whole body to move into this total sensation of the entire body. And what this is saying, in a way, is I am here, I am. So take that I am and fill the entire body with the sensation and the awareness and the knowledge. I am. And that is the exercise. Thank you.
I asked Taylor what was different about being here in person versus watching on the screen, because this is being recorded so that people can have access to it at home. And he's watched some from home before, so I asked him what was different. Can you say that again, Taylor? Can you say it a little bit louder?
You can look around, it's in a higher quality, you're not in front of a screen. It's just really different. You get to see real people with a real voice instead of having basically a robot say it to you.
Yeah.
You want to repeat that?
Yeah, that's a real difference. Yeah. I don't know if you were able to hear, but Taylor was saying that he's watched these meditations on the screen, and it's a screen experience, and being here with everything going on, and the fact that that's happening now, made it quite a bit of difference for him. And I have to say that having you in the room made the way I presented the exercise different because this is just, you're a kid, and I wanted to try and be more clear, because this is something that, generally speaking, kids don't do much, I mean, they really don't need to, but it's, it helps for sure. I mean, being able to be quiet, and be relaxed. I mean, I know you play some music, and you do presentations and all that, and having done that myself, I know that there is a possible tendency to kind of tense up before, playing something you haven't played before for somebody or whatever, and so with this kind of skill set, learning to go in to be relaxed and knowing that you're just going to do as well as you do, and that's that, then, I mean, it helps. So even as a kid, these things can be useful. So it helped me to get a little more simple and direct and go to a little more foundational in a way, to try and give, so if I was, what are you now, 11? If I was 11 and somebody was talking to me, do I remember that far back? Not very clearly, but, I know I was smarter than most people thought. I was, and so I was trying to go for that. Anyhow, thanks for being here, Taylor.
I appreciate your sense of the room and the field. There was a moment when you said, oh, things got lighter and clear, and that really was the moment that, like, my body and my being just kind of relaxed more into it. My monkey mind kind of temporarily just took a break. It got off the jungle gym, and it like laid down in the grass. And
Yeah, it's amazing that we given like Taylor's example. I mean, if he from this age on moves into or sees this as a valuable thing, then I would suspect that the monkey mind is not going to be quite the same for someone like that than it is for us, who have never learned any kind of process, any way of looking at that, because all of our education is directed to things, objects, and never to the subject, which is here. And so it's a learning process that, if things were different, would take place at a much younger age, and then but we're well equipped now for learning to rein it in a sense. Or the actuality is we give it too much value, because the mind has sort of moved into this multiple personality, you could say, and taken over, leaving the mental mind, the talking mind, the commentator, some people call it, this thing that's always relating to the outside. How am I doing in the world? It's always going out there, ding, ding, check, check. Oh, that person might not, what have I done wrong? They're looking at me. That part of the mind, gets so tangled up in the entire process that it takes over. There's no room for this essential, the self we start to see when we do these kind of exercises. There's no room for that to well up, and because the noise of the conditioned body mind is so deafening that there's no room for anything else. So it's like there was a comment last week about spaciousness, and so this is moving into spaciousness, trying to give some space to the parts of us that are dimmed by the noise and bright light of the thinking mind. Yeah, so just having that experience of momentarily seeing, I mean, what is it that sees that there is this monkey mind? Who is that, you know? This is, you know, I mean, because we always see it. I mean, we're experiencing, we're having experiences constantly, you know, and it's, you know, I love the analogy of our life is like a movie, and a movie is projected on a screen. And the screen, we never see it unless something goes wrong with the movie. And if we saw the entire picture, the screen and the movie, we would have a much different understanding. It's just a bigger picture. We see, yeah, we leave out a lot of what's going on because we're in the movie. You know, and when, you know, supposedly, I mean, this is interesting. I have a friend that worked in movies a lot, and she came out of it realizing, I mean, when she would go to the movie, that there was always a camera crew making that movie. And they knew what was going to happen next. The camera crew did. The actors somehow know. That's an interesting thing too. You know, we somehow know as we're going through the movie where it progresses to. If we have a clear sense of the screen, the awareness, which hard concept to get through because we are trained to think that awareness is awareness of something. That is an added step. Awareness is just being. This is where we go with this exercise. We're sitting, we are. The mind is constantly commenting on experience as we learn language and concepts and perceptions and sensations and feelings and thoughts. And so all our experiences are determined by all of those things. Or we see them through those kind of filters and layers. You know. And so, essentially, and then all the meaning of everything is wrapped up in that part. The perceptions, the sensations, the thoughts, the feelings. The actual experience, nothing to do with that. And so we get lost. That's where the confusion comes in. Thank you.